Hello everyone, my name is Brian and welcome back to another Guardian Galore. And for this Guardian Galore we'll take a look at the latest addition to Smite, the newest Guardian, Fafnir. Okay, I do wanted to show this one because I think this was actually the best game I've had with him. I think I got a feel like how to play him. It's a very interesting one. Let's just hop right into it, let's not wait any longer. So, we'll start off with his passive. His passive, he will gain for each minion, god kill, tower, any objective kind of thing, he will gain 4 additional gold. So every single minion he gets 4 additional gold. Just a lot of gold he gains in additional for everything that is killed within, well, his range where he receives the gold and experience. Which is very good. It will help him a lot, especially if you build him more of a Guardian type, because he can get a lot of farm going on even without Watcher's Gift. Also, he has a passive that has to do with gold. It is the first one that actually has to do with gold. It's a very interesting one. Depending on the amount of gold you have, you get protections. You can get up to 30 protections, physical and magical, depending on the amount of gold you have. If you have 1000 gold, you'll have that maximum amount. So I have about 800 now, so I'll be somewhere about 25 protections, give or take, on magical as well as physical, which is very good. It's definitely something that can be very helpful, and it's easy to get to kind of keep some gold with you. You don't want to spend it all always, because sometimes you'll lose a lot of your tankiness for it. So, that is his passive. It is an interesting one, it is a very good one. Like I said, additional gold protections, just very good altogether. It will allow you to get more items online, as well as give you a bit more tankiness that you sometimes require. So, his first ability is a straightforward ability in some way. You'll throw out an axe. This axe is instant, you can't really adjust the aim in any way. When it hits the target, and that target is a god, it will be stunned. It can go through minions, so you can hit multiple minions with it, and after that hit a god if they are in range. And after a god is hit with the stun, it will actually pulse out a little area of effect slow. That will slow enemies within the range. It will slow 20 up to 40% for 3 seconds, so it's a decent slow. The target you hit with your stun is slowed as well. Because the stun is only 1 second, it will actually be decently effective. So, his second ability is buff. It's a steroid you can give to yourself as well as to your teammates. It is an interesting one, it has a lot of features that can be useful, and I'll get back to that as well later in this match. Ooh, bit unfortunate, missed my one there. That ice kinda threw me off in which direction he would go, but that's all fine. So, his second ability, like I said, is a buff. What does it give? What does it provide? It provides you an attack speed buff. It will provide you 10 up to a maximum of 50% additional attack speed, depending on the rank. And it will also provide a kind of damage buff. When you give it to someone, even if it's if you give it to yourself, you will actually get additional damage done. For every single ability or basic you use, you will have additional damage depending on the amount of power you have, as well as the amount of, well, the level of the ability. So you'll have per damage you do, you'll have 5% of your target's power up to a maximum of 25 of your target's power as additional damage. There is a thing to it, it is not really written there, but if you use it, for instance, on a Anubis ultimate, it doesn't really work that way. It deals a little bit less damage. I think, in my theory, it is that additional damage for each second of damage you deal. So, for instance, if you have your Anubis ultimate, for the 3 ticks you do in 1 second, you'll actually have 1 additional tick. As for the damage is stated in the ability. It's a bit awkward one. I tested it. It is not the entire 25% for instance, a Anubis ultimate. That's just something I wanted to give with it. Okay, So enough about that. It's just additional damage, and it counts as damage of Fafnir, which provides something interesting. Well, I'll get back to that later once I go over the build. His third ability is a leap. It is an interesting leap because his damage mechanic on the leap, as well as the effect of the leap, is in a cone in front of him where he lands. So it's not a leap like you regularly have where it's around you. It is a leap where it's in front of you. And that makes it sometimes a bit awkward to properly hit it. It also has a distance to it. If you leap further distance, you'll actually will take longer to leap, and when you're leaping very close to you, it will be almost instantly. This leap deals damage as well as it disarms your opponents for 2 seconds. So it's one of the few disarms in the game for now. It is a very good one though. Like I said, can be difficult to hit, but especially from close distance, it shouldn't be too hard because it's almost instantly. It's also a good escape, as you saw there. Nice ultimate by Odin after my leap, but I go into my ultimate, and I'll get to that in a bit. Actually, I get to that now. I have covered his third ability. So, okay. You saw me use there my ultimate. My ultimate is an interesting one. It has a little charge up time where you will turn into this dragon form you see me in now. And it is a pretty good one. So, you will charge up for 3 seconds. You can see the area of effect around him. In those 3 seconds you're untargetable, so you can't be damaged. When you're, of course, afflicted by a bleed, it will still deal the damage, but you can't be targeted by anything on the field. So it can be very good to deny damage on you, as well as kind of deter them from going in the area where you're at, because you will stand still, but if the 3 seconds have passed, you have turned into a dragon, and everyone in range of you will actually have a dot applied to them, which deals damage every single second for 3 seconds, which does a considerable amount of damage. After this, you have a new set of cooldowns. You have your 3 abilities. They all do kind of the same, but when you're in dragon form, they do something in addition, and that's something I'll cover right now. So let's start off with his first ability in his dragon form. It will still stun, it will still detonate on the first target, but when you hit someone, it will apply the same bleed, or well, at least another bleed for 3 seconds that deals damage each second. It also deals with the slow area of effect that comes out of it. It will also do a protection debuff effect, and this protection debuff effect will actually reduce the protections by 20 up to a maximum of 40% to enemies hit. So it's a very good way to get rid of protections of your opponent by hitting your one in your dragon form. Definitely very powerful tool. As you can see, I'll go again into my ultimate. The bleed actually hit, and I not in range, I think. Actually, I missed my one. That's unfortunate, but does look like I can pick her up, and that will result in a kill. Also, a very important part about his ultimate is actually one of the it is the longest lasting ultimate in the game. At rank 1 it lasts for 20 seconds, which is also quite long already. But when you're at maximum level, at level 20 with a maxed out ultimate, you will have 40 seconds of your ultimate, which is very good because you can use your abilities multiple times in your ultimate form, which allows you to deal an insane amount of damage and insane amount of additional effects. Like for instance his second ability, it doesn't provide too much in addition, but it also it's an area of effect when you're in your ultimate, so you can apply it to yourself as well as any teammates that's inside the radius, which is very good because it can buff multiple of your teammates for up to 50% additional attack speed and that additional damage, which is just great, and that is insane. Oh, also one thing that's very important, I forgot to mention about his 2, as well as in his dragon as in his regular form, it will actually heal Fafnir. So if he buffs his teammate or buffs himself, it will actually heal Fafnir. It also scales on magical power, so that can be useful, but just to have a sustained heal is very, very powerful, very potent. It's definitely something I recommend leveling up after your 1, because your 1 slow increases on the level and it allows you to deal more damage. Leveling up your 2 second will allow you to give a lot of attack speed to your teammates, and especially for hunters that's very powerful. 50% additional attack speed is a lot. Okay, so again in his dragon form, his third ability is now what I will cover. His third ability, his leap, will have a little bit more range to it, so you can leap further. This allows you to chase up to enemies a bit easier. As you can see here, I am able to help the Loki somewhat. Not enough, but at least wanted to try it. I got Odin in return, so kind of worked out. 1 for 1, it's not the worst thing, of course. Okay, so in ultimate, it also, when you hit the leap in your ultimate as Fafnir, it will also stun the nearest target. So for instance, if you hit multiple targets, only the nearest one will be stunned. But it is a very powerful tool to get someone, stick to them, and it will also apply another bleed that lasts for 3 seconds, hitting every single second. So to sum it all up, you will have, if you hit your ultimate, which is kind of difficult because it is very obvious you use it and it has a 3-second charge up, so they have a lot of time to get out of it. But when you hit that, you have a bleed of 3 seconds. If you're able to confirm your 3 as well as your 1 when you're in your ultimate, it will be another 2 different bleeds, which also deals damage over a course of 3 seconds every single second. It is an insane amount of damage. You should never underestimate that amount of damage. Unless you're very tanky, you will die if you get hit by all 3 the bleeds. I can almost guarantee it. It is, of course, there are some ways to avoid it. You have Sanctuary, etc. But it is an insane amount of damage. Be careful for it, because it is a very powerful tool. Definitely not something you should ever underestimate. So, that's all of his abilities. He has a lot of into it. He kind of feels awkward at some points, in my opinion. The fact that you can't adjust the aim with your 1 is instant. Even though instant makes it a lot quicker on the use, it is very important because, for instance, the Ul Axe is not instant and can be used on multiple occasions. And as you can see, again, going into ultimate, zoning out the entire area of effect. Hitting my bleed 1 on the Nox will guarantee the kill. And as you can see here, I can buff multiple targets, buffing the Nox, buffing myself. And also, as you can see, I'm actually breathing fire. That's also another thing I forgot to mention. She actually got hit by my 1. That deals a lot of damage. And as you can see, 3 of us buffed at this point. Very powerful, very potent buff. But my basic attack becomes a small cone area in front of me. So something like Ares' 3. That deals damage over time. It does not apply, for instance, stuff that is hit on basics, like for instance Telkines is not applied with it, so you don't have to try it. It would be way too overpowered if it worked that way, but it doesn't. It is 3 times you hit every second, so it has more a tick based damage, but it is a good amount of damage. And also, like I said, it's a bit of an area of effect like Ares' shield flame thing damaging ability. It's very potent. So, it has a lot to it. It just has a lot to it. Awkward at some points. Hitting his 1 is very important. Hitting his leap is very important as well. And because it's the first ability with a cone shape in front of him, that might result in some difficulties. You can use this tool to heal yourself up. You'll see me use it a couple of times when there's not an ally nearby, or when I'm not feeling too comfortable to take a long time to heal someone up. And as you can see, using my sprint at this point to kind of make sure that he can get away, maybe. Disarming the Jingwei. I might be able to... Oh, he's chased down by so many of them. I will go into my ultimate. At least try to get the Jingwei, but the Jingwei is already stuck, so no reason to go for him. Actually stunning the Vulcan, and the bleed does a lot of damage. I hit my 3 as well as my 1 in the dragon form. That's just an insane amount of damage and just barely able to survive. Protections from the gold definitely working out in my favor. The fact that I have 1700 gold doesn't apply more than having 1000. 1000 is the cap for the amount of protections you can get, but it's still pretty good. So the bleed is very powerful. The stun is very powerful. You have 3 stuns in your kit. Also, the cooldowns don't really they don't share cooldowns. So if you use your entire kit on your regular form and you go into your ultimate, you will have all your abilities available. And when you go out of your ultimate, you will have all your abilities available again in your regular form. So that can be very useful. You can hit your stun with your 1, disarm them, go in your ultimate, do it all over again, buff your entire team with your 2 is just a very good ability altogether. As you can see, again, buffing my teammate, it allows him to deal more damage with his basics, as well as that additional damage. And that brings me to what I wanted to say. When you buff someone, as well as someone else, if you get a Gem of Isolation, which is pretty, you might think, that's not a tank item, it's not very good. It is actually pretty good on him, because he doesn't only have a lot of his abilities, but the fact that your 2, when you buff someone, it applies your damage on the opponent, even though, well, it counts as your damage, but it depends on their power, but still, it is your damage, so to speak. So it will apply Soul Reaver, which can be very good. So you can give a Hunter a buff for attack speed, and he will actually proc your Soul Reaver on someone. As well as when you use, for instance, when you have Gem of Isolation, it will also proc the slow. So if I buff, for instance, our Skadi, she will have 50% additional attack speed, additional damage on her basics, on her abilities, on everything. And she will have a slow effect on everything she does, because I have the Gem of Isolation. And when I'm in my ultimate and I use my 2 on multiple members, you can have an entire team with Gem of Isolation effects on everything. So not only will it be on the abilities, but also on the basic attacks. So that can be extremely powerful to slow your enemies, and it provides so much control for your entire team. If you're just grouping up, I use my 2 on everyone, it is slows for everyone. It is just insane. It is very effective. It's definitely not something you can underestimate. But what I did notice is if you build Soul Reaver as well as a Gem of Isolation, then you will be in trouble, because you won't have as much tankiness. I don't recommend both of them, but you can maybe, it might work for you if you position yourself carefully enough, and if you're not fighting an entire group on your own. I feel like I forgot. Yes, there's something I forgot to mention, and that is quite important, and it's also something that makes him kind of awkward. Once you get out of your dragon form, once it is over, you will be stunned for a brief moment. Well, not a brief moment. I think it's actually 2 seconds. You'll be stunned for 2 whole seconds, which is a long time. So if you if you're not careful enough, and you see that your ultimate is almost over, and you're in the middle of a team fight, middle of opponents, then you might get caught in the 2 seconds you're not able to move when you're stunned. Also, you can cancel your ultimate earlier to make sure you don't that you won't get stunned by your ultimate in an awkward moment. So that way you can make sure that you don't get stunned in the middle of a fight by just making sure that you are not in your ultimate anymore. Let's see, buffing the Nox, healing myself up again. It is a good amount of heal. There's a good amount of zoning with my ultimate at this point, and I'm really feeling myself can deal a lot of damage. Odin Ring neglects all my healing, and oh nice knock. Oh no. I tried to use my 2 on myself to heal myself after the Odin cage would have faded. Unfortunately enough, the Sobek actually plucked me as the Odin cage was going down, so that wasn't allowing me to get off my 2 to heal myself up. It is not an awful lot of healing, it's about 250, but it's definitely something that could have helped me to get off my leap, get out of the fight, get myself to safety. There's also something else I could have tried. That was going out of my ultimate to make sure that I have my leap. Even though I am stunned for 2 seconds, I was kind of stunned for the 2 seconds anyway in a Nox combination, even though I didn't notice the Nox. That's my bad. Also, being surrounded by an entire team when you're in your ultimate, it's not the best moment, but okay. When I would have been stunned and combined by the Nox, I might have been able to survive with my leap, but I don't know. Anyway, so there's a lot to it. I'm not sure if I cut it all in your attention, because it is a very complicated kit in its entirety. His one is a stun with a slow aspect to it. In his dragon form it is a dot damage as well as a protection debuff. His 2 is a attack speed steroid which applies Gem of Isolation if you have it, as well as Soul Reaver. And it can be applied to multiple teammates when you're in your dragon form. Your 3 is a disarm, which is a leap. The leap is faster when you're closer to yourself. In dragon form you can leap further, as well as you will stun in your dragon form with it. And apply a bleed damage. Your ultimate has a damage area of effect that deals also damage over time. And it makes you untargetable, so it can make sure that you avoid a lot of the damage. And as you saw there, I did a good amount of work on the Jingwei. Unfortunately enough, the Sobek is able to zone me out. And the basic attack, of course, turns into fire as well. So there's a lot to it. 40 seconds of ultimate when you're at your maximum level. Very powerful kit. Very useful. A lot of uses. I feel like he's a lot of fun. He is awkward to get used to, but I feel like he is balanced, but also has very high potential. As you saw there, I wasn't able to get any more abilities off because my ultimate was down, and that stunned me in my tracks. So like I said, awkward, powerful, has his uses. I feel like he is very good in addition with a hunter, because the attack speed buff helps them the most. It's also probably very good with, for instance, a Kali that doesn't have as much attack speed just yet. Or a few other characters that can get a lot out of attack speed. I feel like Humbots wouldn't be the worst thing either with it. Or for instance, what are some other attack speed gods? Can't really come up with any at the moment, but I feel like just a lot of potential to it. And he has some sustain with his 2. He gets a good amount of additional gold with his passive. He gets additional protections because of his passive. And he has a lot to him. And I feel like he's very good. I don't really feel like he needs a buff or a nerf. Maybe kinda change to make him feel a bit, I don't know, more potent in a way that when you look at his abilities, some feel a little bit awkward. Mostly I feel like his ultimate, the fact that you get stunned when your ultimate is down for 2 seconds, can be a little bit awkward, but when you take it into account it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So enough about this all. You have seen me do a lot of stuff with him. You see that I'm doing pretty good for myself. Been able to survive a couple of times. I have a decent amount of health, 2855, so it's decent. I have actually I haven't covered the build in any way. I feel like the Shoes of the Magi are very good because he deals so much damage with his bleed. So getting some additional penetration with it is very powerful. Breastplate because he relies on cooldowns a lot, and his cooldowns are pretty long because, as you can see, I have 35 protections with the Mantle of Discord as well, and my 1 still has 10 seconds of cooldown. So his cooldowns are pretty long. Getting cooldown reduction online is very good on him. I picked up the hardware to get some magical protection for my team as well as for myself, because I didn't have any because I went to breastplate. After that, going into the gem, because I was quite ahead, I felt like the gem at that point was a good option. Like I mentioned, it provides a slow on everyone that is buffed with Course, his second ability, as well as on myself, and all my abilities will do it as well. Also a very good combination is Course on yourself when you're in dragon form, so your breath of fire will slow the enemy as well. My 5th item was Sovereignty, providing protections to my teammates as well as myself, providing some healing reduction, healing over time, HP 5. As you can see here, easily she gets out of the way of my ultimate, and there is a large charge up time, so it is quite difficult to confirm it sometimes. You either need to surprise someone with it, slow them with hit. If you hit them with your 1, you might have an opportunity because they are stunned for a short duration and slowed afterwards. But I think that they still have a decent opportunity to get out. Good fight. I buff my Skadi to make sure she can deal as much damage as you want. I am targeted by the Titan, so I need to be careful, get out of range as fast as possible. Stunning the Odin. Jingwei is actually chasing up to me. I heal myself. I disarm her and oh my god! That was insane. As you saw there, my ultimate was just barely off. It was barely out of the time, so I would have been stunned. I went for the disarm, which allowed me to have some time to at least try and escape in any way. And then the Nox came in. She dashed into me, detonated herself out of me, and probably a Soul Reaver proc on her as well. Instantly finished off the Jingwei, saving my life. Very well played by the Nox, noticing that the Jingwei went so hard for me and dealing that amount of damage. It's just insane. As you can see, I did a decent amount of damage. Nox as well as Scotty were above me, but I feel like if you can compare yourself to a Bacchus and you have more damage than Bacchus, it's definitely very good. So, wasn't completely done with the build just yet, so I'll just finish that one off. Mantle of Discord, like I said, with additional cooldown reduction is very good. And I went for protections on both sides because I felt like I needed some additional magical protection. And it never hurts to get more physical protection. Hunters get very strong late game, as well as Phoenixes, Fire Giants, etc. Tanking those with physical protection is very good. And the effect is also very good. When you're low on HP, they will stun your opponents in an area of effect. Provides you CC immunity, especially since I didn't have beads. Pretty good, especially if I would have been caught by, for instance, Nox combination, and my health would have been reduced to the 30% mark. I could have just walked out. I picked up Shell to help out my teammates if they get stuck in Odin Cage. Skadi is very susceptible for it. Loki can only get out with his ultimate. Nox can only really get out if there's a teammate nearby using her dash on the teammate. It is an option. Box can get out easily. I can get out as well, even though I did get caught a couple of times because the Odin with the blink was able to kind of get to me when I used my leap. So that was well played in this part. You definitely want to look out for those escape abilities, but I feel like it's not the best option to focus a Fafnir, especially if it has his ultimate. And the sprint, I feel like sprint was just a very good option. Sprints always allows you to either run away from, for instance, Sobek ultimate, Vulcan ultimate, Jingwei ultimate, maybe juke out Nox ultimate. It's not too useful for Odin Cage, but the shell is for it. Anyway, I hope you guys learned something about Fafnir. If something wasn't really clear just yet, please post it in the comments. I'll try to answer any questions you might have. And as always, good luck, have fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.